In another, death is no accident. It's a curse. Each year, students in a specific classroom mysteriously start dying one by one. But what if I told you this was inspired by real-life stories? The idea of another is rooted in real Japanese urban legends about cursed classrooms. Stories of schools where students vanished or died under strange circumstances have existed for generations. In some cases, entire classrooms were closed off, believed to be marked by death. These urban legends often revolve around a deceased student whose spirit haunts the classroom, causing accidents or tragedies to befall anyone who enters. Much like Napoleon's obsession with expanding his empire led to his ultimate downfall, in another, the relentless denial of the curse's existence only makes the situation worse. One wrong move, and you're the next victim of the curse. The anime's suspenseful pacing and mysterious deaths make it a perfect representation of how folklore can blend with modern storytelling. Psychologically, another taps into our fear of the unknown and the uncontrollable. Cognitive dissonance, the mental conflict when confronted with a reality that contradicts our beliefs, plays a central role. The character's refusal to acknowledge the curse reflects this dissonance, resulting in disastrous consequences. On a universal level, we've all faced situations where denying a problem only makes it worse, whether it's ignoring a growing conflict at work or delaying a tough decision in our personal lives. It's like adding more salt to a soup that's already too salty. You hope it will somehow balance out, but it only gets worse. If you've seen Yamishibai, you already know it's not just another horror anime. Every episode is a short story based on real Japanese urban legends. One of the most famous is Kuchisake-onna, the slit-mouthed woman. Legend has it, she appears at night wearing a surgical mask and asks you, "Am I pretty?" If you say no, she kills you. If you say yes, she reveals her horrifying smile, her mouth slit from ear to ear, and still kills you. This tale originated in the 1970s and caused widespread panic among school children in Japan, much like the mass hysteria caused by sightings of supposed supernatural figures throughout history. Another haunting figure is Teke-Teke, a ghost who lost her legs in a train accident. She drags herself with her hands, moving unnaturally fast to chase down her victims. Like Ivan the Terrible, who used fear to consolidate power, Yamishibai uses fear as a tool to control its narrative, leaving viewers with a lingering sense of dread. Each episode's animation style mimics traditional Japanese shadow puppet theater, enhancing the eerie atmosphere. From a psychological perspective, Yamishibai explores how fear can distort our perception of reality, triggering primal fight-or-flight responses that are deeply ingrained in human psychology. We've all experienced moments when our fears took control, whether it's public speaking or facing the unknown. And this anime capitalizes on that universal experience. Fear is like a bad GPS. It leads you into strange places and convinces you they're the right destination. Shiki may look like a typical vampire anime, but its roots run much deeper. It's based on ancient Japanese folklore about Shiki, undead spirits that possess corpses. In rural villages, sudden, unexplained deaths were often blamed on these restless spirits. In Shiki, this folklore is brought to life in terrifying detail. The anime portrays a remote village where people begin dying mysteriously, only to rise again as undead. These supernatural deaths are linked to traditional beliefs in obake, ghosts, and yurei, spirits unable to move on. Just like Van Gogh, whose isolation fueled both his genius and his suffering, the characters in Shiki are trapped in their own world of paranoia and fear, ultimately becoming victims of their community's disintegration. The slow build-up to the horror makes the eventual chaos even more impactful. Thematically, Shiki touches on the concept of social exclusion and collective fear. The villagers' descent into mob mentality mirrors real-life psychological studies on groupthink and how fear can override individual morality. It's like watching a pot of water boil over. You know the pressure will explode, but no one dares turn down the heat. Before we continue with the video, I want to ask for your help. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subs, so I'd really appreciate it if you would like to subscribe and help me out. Okay, let's continue. Perfect Blue explores the dark side of fame and obsession. It's inspired by real incidents of stalkers targeting J-pop idols, with some cases turning violent. The film captures the psychological trauma celebrities endure when reality starts to blur with delusion. Director Satoshi Kon based much of Perfect Blue on actual cases of stalking and the pressures of the idol industry. Much like Nikola Tesla, whose visionary mind led him to become increasingly detached from reality, the protagonist in Perfect Blue spirals into paranoia as the boundaries between her public persona and personal life collapse. The blending of reality and hallucination in the film keeps viewers questioning what's real, just as the protagonist does. Psychologically, Perfect Blue delves into dissociative identity disorder and the effects of constant surveillance on mental health. The protagonist's growing sense of unreality reflects the psychological cost of living under extreme pressure and scrutiny. It's like trying to hold on to a slippery bar of soap. The harder you grasp at reality, the faster it slips away. Shoujo Tsubaki, also known as Midori, Shoujo Tsubaki, is one of the darkest anime ever created. It's based on old Yamishibai street tales about young girls sold into freak shows, where they were subjected to horrific abuse. The anime is a brutal reminder of Japan's hidden past. The harsh depiction of exploitation and suffering in Shoujo Tsubaki reflects real practices in Japan's early 20th century. Freak shows were common, and many children were forced into these environments due to poverty. Like the exploited workers of the Industrial Revolution, these children became symbols of a society that had lost its moral compass. The anime's disturbing imagery and hopeless tone make it a harrowing watch, but it serves as an important commentary on forgotten history. On a deeper level, Shoujo Tsubaki highlights the psychological effects of prolonged trauma, illustrating how resilience can become both a survival mechanism and a burden. Trauma is like carrying a backpack filled with rocks. You don't notice how heavy it's become until you can no longer walk. Grave of the Fireflies isn't just a war drama. It's a semi-autobiographical story by Akiyuki Nosaka, who lost his sister during World War II. The film's heartbreaking portrayal of survival during wartime is drawn directly from his own experiences. Nosaka's story reflects the suffering of many Japanese civilians during the firebombing raids. His guilt over surviving while his sister didn't is a key theme in the film. Like Napoleon's retreat from Russia, the characters in Grave of the Fireflies endure an inevitable march toward tragedy, with each decision sealing their fate. Grave of the Fireflies is widely regarded as one of the most emotional anime ever made, capturing the harsh realities of war through the eyes of children. The film's emotional impact is heightened by its exploration of survivors' guilt and the psychological scars of war, making it a deeply human story that resonates with universal experiences of loss and grief. It's the cinematic equivalent of hearing a beautiful song that makes you cry every time. Painful, yet unforgettable. Mononoke brings ancient Japanese kaidan, ghost stories, to life. Every episode is a tale of spirits and curses, based on real folklore passed down for centuries. It's a deep dive into Japan's spiritual world, blending horror with history. The show's protagonist, the medicine seller, acts as a mediator between the human and spirit worlds. Each arc explores a different type of mononoke, supernatural being, often reflecting societal fears and taboos. Like the Renaissance artists who used allegory to critique society, Mononoke uses supernatural elements to confront the darker aspects of human nature. The unique art style and intricate storytelling make Mononoke stand out as a masterpiece of supernatural horror. In terms of psychology, Mononoke explores repression and unresolved trauma, with many of its ghostly tales acting as metaphors for hidden personal struggles. Trauma in Mononoke is like an unwelcome houseguest. It stays hidden in the shadows until it takes over your home. In Erased, Boku Dake ga Inai Machi, time travel isn't just a thrilling plot device. It's a desperate attempt to rewrite a tragic past. But did you know this anime is inspired by real-life child abduction cases in Japan? The story follows Satoru, a man who discovers he can travel back in time to prevent terrible events. His mission becomes clear when he's sent back to his childhood to stop a string of child kidnappings and murders. This premise is rooted in notorious crimes from the 1980s, a time when child abduction cases shocked the nation. The realism in Erased hits close to home for many viewers, making it more than just fiction. Psychologically, the show delves into themes of trauma, survivor's guilt, and the fragility of memory. It also explores the deep human desire for second chances. On a universal level, it reminds us of moments we've all wished we could go back and fix, regrets that linger, and opportunities lost. It's like trying to hold on to water in your hands. The harder you grasp, the faster it slips away. Serial experiments. Lane isn't just about technology. It's a haunting look at the consequences of living too much in a digital world. Released in the late 1990s, the anime reflects the growing anxiety around the internet's rise. Lane, the protagonist, becomes increasingly detached from reality as she dives deeper into the wired, an internet-like network. The story is eerily similar to real cases of people losing themselves in digital worlds, blurring the line between online personas and real-life identities. From a psychological perspective, the show explores dissociation, identity fragmentation, and the dangers of social isolation. Lane's journey is like chasing shadows in a fog. Every step forward only leads her deeper into the unknown. On a broader scale, it reflects how our growing dependence on technology shapes our sense of self. We've all been there. One harmless scroll turns into hours lost online. In Paranoia Agent, a mysterious attacker named Lil Slugger causes widespread panic. But is he real, or just a shared delusion? This anime captures the essence of mass hysteria and social pressure in Japan. The show's characters experience their own psychological breakdowns, each one contributing to the growing fear and chaos. The inspiration comes from actual incidents of collective panic, where fear spreads like wildfire through communities. Director Satoshi Kon uses surrealism to explore how stress and anxiety can create monsters, both real and imagined. Psychologically, it touches on the dangers of shared delusions and how societal pressure can lead to collective breakdowns. It's like a snowball rolling downhill. Once it starts, it's nearly impossible to stop. On a deeper level, it reminds us that fear, much like gossip, spreads faster than the truth. Tokyo Ghoul blends modern urban life with ancient Japanese folklore about yokai, supernatural beings that exist among humans. The story revolves around Kaneki, a young man who becomes half ghoul after a violent encounter. But beneath the fantasy, there's a deeper metaphor for social alienation and hidden communities. The anime reflects real struggles faced by marginalized groups trying to live unnoticed in society. The ghouls represent those who live on the fringes, hiding their true nature for fear of rejection. Tokyo Ghoul is both a horror story and a social commentary on identity, belonging, and the price of being different. Psychologically, it explores identity crises and the duality of human nature. Thematically, it's about the masks we wear to fit in. Sometimes these masks protect us. Other times they suffocate us. It's like wearing a coat in the summer. You may feel safe, but eventually the heat becomes unbearable. On the surface, Yamato Nadeshiko Shichi Henge, the Wallflower, is a quirky comedy about transformation. But dig deeper, and you'll find a story about social anxiety, self-image, and rejection. The protagonist, Tsunako, isolates herself after being called ugly by her crush. Her journey towards self-acceptance is a reflection of the hikikomori phenomenon in Japan, young people withdrawing from society due to extreme social pressure. Psychologically, it explores how beauty standards and societal expectations can distort one's self-worth. It's like watering a plant too much. What starts as care can quickly turn into suffocation. Tsunako's story is a reminder that true transformation begins with self-love, not external validation. And honestly, we've all had those moments when we just wanted to hide under a blanket and forget the world existed. These horror anime aren't just stories. They're reflections of real fears, legends, and tragedies from Japan's past. The next time you watch a scene that feels too real, it just might be. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of anime.